Imagine stepping back tens of thousands of years to a time before written history, before the pyramids, before even the wheel. What secrets lie buried in the dust of our deepest past, waiting to be rediscovered? This is not the history you learned in school. This is something far older, far stranger, and infinitely more human. Today, we journey into the uncharted origins of our species, not as passive creatures battling nature, but as innovators, storytellers, and pioneers. We're not just telling stories. We're unraveling Earth's oldest untold human narratives that have remained hidden until now. This is Unraveling Earth's oldest untold human stories. When you think of early humans, what do you imagine? Dirty faces, crude tools, a life of constant struggle? Think again. In the last decade alone, new archaeological finds are rewriting the map of human migration. For decades, it was believed Homo sapiens left Africa around 60,000 years ago. But discoveries in Greece, China, and Saudi Arabia tell a different story. Fossils dating back over 210,000 years suggest our ancestors left Africa much earlier. And even more shocking, they weren't alone. We shared the world with at least 8 other human species: Neanderthals, Denisovans, Homo floresiensis, Homo naledi, each with their own tools, cultures, and mysteries. And we didn't just replace them. We interacted. We interbred. The blood of those extinct species still flows in many of us today. Forget the stereotype of cavemen scrambling for berries. Recent studies show that early hunter-gatherers had complex social structures, strategic foraging methods, and long-term ecological planning. In Göbekli Tepe, Turkey, a site built over 11,000 years ago, massive stone pillars arranged in circles suggest coordinated labor, religious practices, and symbolic thought, all before farming even existed. These were not aimless wanderers. They were the architects of human survival. A sudden drought, a shifting monsoon, a volcanic eruption. These natural events didn't just shape landscapes, they forced innovation. As the Sahara turned green, then back to desert, people moved. They adapted. They invented. Some learned to trap water. Others mastered fire-hardened tools. Environmental change didn't destroy us. It sparked our ingenuity. What makes us human? Intelligence, language, art? It turns out the answer might be deeper and older than we ever imagined. In a cave in Indonesia, a handprint, painted over 45,000 years ago. In France at Chauvet Cave, lions, rhinos, and mammoths etched in charcoal, stunning in detail, haunting in style. This wasn't doodling. This was storytelling. Memory made visible. Symbolic art emerged independently across continents, suggesting something monumental. A shared inner world, one capable of imagining, dreaming, remembering. We often highlight spears and axes, but the real innovation? The small things. Needles for stitching clothes, bow drills for making fire, mortars for grinding plants. These tools were not for war, they were for life. They represent a shift, from reacting to nature to engineering it. And this wasn't the work of a genius alone. It was collaboration. Knowledge passed down through generations, refined, perfected. On a Neanderthal skeleton, evidence of a broken bone, healed. On another, tooth decay, treated. In Shanidar Cave, a man with severe disabilities was buried with care, not abandoned, protected, nurtured. From herbal poultices to rudimentary surgeries, early humans understood more about the body and compassion than we give them credit for. Before governments, before borders, there was still society. The first communities weren't led by kings, but they weren't anarchies either. They had rules, roles, and rituals. On the bones of the dead, archaeologists find both evidence of brutal violence and surgical precision. Two sides of the same coin. Humans cooperated to survive, but also competed for resources. Evidence shows some tribes shared food over vast distances, others raided. We weren't peaceful utopians, but we weren't mindless brutes either. We were human. Why do humans tell stories? Because stories bind us. Myths, legends, and oral histories helped early groups remember, cohere, and belong. A shared story wasn't entertainment. It was survival. It taught lessons, preserved identity, explained the unexplainable. It built culture, and culture built community. In some places, power was communal. In others, it was hierarchical. But the seeds of leadership, persuasion, respect, charisma were already there. Burial sites suggest high-status individuals, sometimes buried with tools or ornaments. Were they wise elders, spiritual guides, warriors? The structure of early leadership still echoes in our politics today. To truly understand our ancestors, we must step into their world. Imagine waking up 30,000 years ago. The sun rises over a wild, untouched landscape. What does a day look like? Morning, check traps, gather roots, hunt if needed. Afternoon, repair clothing, teach the young. Evening, share food. Tell stories by the fire, sing, dance. Family units were tight-knit. Skills were passed down through practice. Laughter and sorrow existed as they do now. And love, yes, even that, is written in burial offerings. Tender gestures fossilized in time. Caves with red ochre handprints. Graves with flowers. Animal bones arranged in ritual patterns. We may never know exactly what they believed, but we know they believed. They honored their dead. They feared forces unseen. They painted spirits and gods long before temples existed. Their rituals speak of a deep need to connect, to each other, to the land, and to something greater. Before writing, there was speech, and gesture, and symbol. Linguists believe early languages may have had rich vocabularies for nature, emotions, and relationships. We've lost those languages, but not what they created. Connection, memory, identity. So what does this all mean for us? Why should we care about people who lived 50,000 years ago? Because their stories are our stories. They faced climate change, scarcity, conflict, and they adapted. Their resilience offers perspective and hope as we face our own global challenges. They remind us that change is not new, and neither is the human spirit's capacity to evolve. Many of the tools we rely on today, cooperation, storytelling, innovation, began with them. Their genius wasn't in technology, but in insight, in finding harmony with nature, in working together. They built the foundations we walk on today, whether we know it or not. Millions of stories remain buried in the earth, in caves yet to be explored, in DNA not yet decoded. We are only scratching the surface. The past isn't just behind us, it's under us, all around us, waiting to be known. The history of humanity isn't a straight line. It's a tapestry, woven with threads of struggle, brilliance, pain, and wonder. And the deeper we dig, the more we find that our ancestors weren't so different from us. They laughed, they loved, they feared the dark, and dreamed of stars. Know this, the oldest stories may be untold, but they are not forgotten. And in rediscovering them, we rediscover ourselves. Know more. Be more.